I am so excited and I'm so happy to be on another talk about food for thoughts with lovely Gemma today. Gemma, I am really honored that you go on a talk with me and that you take your time, and I welcome you. Hi there.
Hello, it's so lovely to be here with you. We got a bit carried away in our intro chat. We were having such a lovely time, so it's a good thing that we managed to turn the camera on.
Yeah. I'm quite happy that Cleo, the cat, is sitting on the corner now, not waving the tail into the camera, but you never know what's going to happen. Right. Gemma, I start with a very serious question.
Ooh,
Oh,
ooh.
what in your life did you have to unlearn to actually start living fully?
Wow, oh my God, so much. How long have we got? That's, do you know that I was speaking with the friend that I'm staying with at the moment, and I was saying that I believe that each of us has a challenge that we face in this lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's this challenging energy, like searching, that keeps pulling us forward through our lives,
Yeah.
something that we're searching for. And we broke it down and distilled it to the want of being seen
Mm.
and not projected on.
Mm. Oh.
And I was like, wow, out of all of the things that I had to unlearn, that has been like the overarching thing that has challenged me through my life is understanding the difference of when someone is seeing me clearly
Mm.
and when someone is projecting onto me.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and
Because
I was like, that is such a important thing, not only for myself, but I think for everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, it is because projection is so weird and so strenuous at times. And when you receive it and when you do it yourself, and to me, it's like running away from something subconsciously most of the time. Don't you think?
Do you mean when you're projecting onto others?
Mm.
Oh,
And those
absolutely.
and those projecting onto you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like it's a cycle of energy.
Oh yeah.
You know, someone who is projected on, therefore projects onto someone else, and the cycle goes round and round and round.
Oh yeah, it does.
And I feel like the way that I have dealt with it is to, she's,
Well,
you
that's
want
gonna
you
be a
want to be
funny
seen,
session.
Cleo. She's making the point for me. She wants to be
Yeah.
seen in all her glory. It's like, look at me while someone maybe that's the way that we could tag the video. Cat lover will get loads more views. Cleo getting her airtime.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I shall not be so distracted by the cat. I feel like the way that I have dealt with it in myself is to take every projection and run it through a lens of, okay, so that is how they see me. Is that true for me?
Ah, lovely. I like
And
that.
just slow that process down of not being so quick to just accept
Hmm.
that as truth. And
Absolutely.
and I feel like that has it's made me less reactive, it's made me less angry, it's made me less anxious or upset.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many of my addictions and self-soothing strategies that have moved through in my life, if I would have found that simple,
Mm.
look, why don't you show yourself? Look, everyone can see you. Look, and
Hello,
how beautiful
Cleo.
you are.
So, for all you watchers and listeners, I'm not cutting anything out. This is just how it goes.
This is
Life.
life be lifing.
Yeah. Right. Right. So projection and energy. Yes, the circle goes round and round and round. And, you know, there's this one sentence, hurt people.
Mm,
And we cannot see ourselves clearly without the other. So we do need the opposite. We recognize us in the other, but through our own lens and through the filters that we all have, and through the experience and how we stored those experiences.
yeah, the emotional charge that goes with
Yeah.
those. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. That's something that I enjoy working with when I work with people who come for support
Mhm. Yeah.
because I feel like that's, I mean, what we were saying about getting to the root, getting to the
Yeah.
nitty-gritty of an issue that maybe someone is trying to process.
Yeah.
And I feel like the anguish and the pain comes from not actually being able to process that emotional charge.
Yeah.
And that's how we get into reactive, and then we start the self-soothing process. You know,
Mhm.
there's a chain of events.
Mhm.
Um, and what you were saying about getting to the nitty-gritty in like the first 3 minutes, because I feel like that's the power of the kind of work that we do.
Yeah.
You know, you'll go into the charge, you'll go into the first step rather than dealing with all the symptoms and, you know, the lost information that people may spend years delving
Mm.
into and trying to understand logic in it. You know, why am I doing this to myself? Why is this happening? Why is my relationship falling apart? You know, why do I spend all my money? Why have I got this addiction? And it's like you need to go so
Mm.
much deeper into that beginning, that,
Yeah.
and I feel like that charge, once you sort of take the pin out of that and someone can actually process it in a space that's non-judgment, and
Mm.
you know someone is seeing you, perceiving you clearly, you know that you're not a bad person, you know, and that you're not wounded, you're not broken, you know, like all that kind of language, it's like that person can soften it and go, oh, actually, it wasn't the crisis that I actually thought that it was.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wonderful. Thanks
Mm.
for sharing. So, unlearning stuff we were carrying with us is so important. And for watchers and listeners, it's mostly subconscious that we carry stuff with us because we stored emotionally the experience. So and it's mostly pushed away as well because it was painful, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking of coming back to something that we started talking about in our intro chat. And you mentioned taking on a story
Mm.
about your friend and the guilt that came with that. And
Yeah.
it piqued my interest greatly. My ears, my energetic ears went whoop, you know, and I would like to talk about that if we may, in that space of taking on the story, taking on the emotional charge. Like what was that for you, and how did that come about? Because that was obviously something that you took on as being in your control, and you know, and how did you manifest that? You know, how did that manifest for you? And what was the story in your mind that you made that your, you know, your fault? Because I feel like that would be so helpful to so many people that are watching, because that's what we do. That's what we do. You know, we accept all these challenges and stories as being something that we have control over when it may manifest that it actually has not really anything to do with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for
So
asking.
yeah, I would love to know more about that.
Well, I didn't find out for more than 2 decades because it happened subconsciously.
Mm.
My school friend had a very bad accident and he died in that accident. We were 6 years young. And
Wow.
it was at the end of our summer holidays. So the first ever day at school would have been, or was a few days later.
Wow.
So he never even came to school. And we were living out in the boonies in the countryside. And he was like maybe 2 kilometers away. But in those days, when we were young, cycling to the next neighbor was very normal. But
Mm.
their farm was in like a double curve, and he got hit by a car and died.
Wow.
And I stored the feeling he died because he wanted to see me.
Because he was traveling to you.
That was the information I stored. I'm not even sure now, or like for the past 20 years, if that's really true.
Mm.
But that was something I picked up, that he was driving out of the farm. And I would not be able to say 100% if somebody said that he wanted to visit me, but this is
Mhm.
how I stored it, how I picked it up. So it went inward, like it's my fault that he's not living anymore
Wow.
without knowing. I mean, it was the first ever shock I had. We were having a little farm, like pigs, piglets, cats, dogs, always. And of
Mm.
course, animals die. But that was the first ever loss I remember as a kid from a human.
Wow.
And it was my friend. We played a lot together.
Yeah.
So, and I remember that the adults were incapable of bringing that information in a proper way towards me.
Wow. What, you knew that as a child?
I
You were
remember,
aware?
not quite sure. I would not No, I would not nail myself down on that. But I remember, and I see that clearly in my inner film. I
Mm.
remember sitting outside in that farmhouse on a wooden bench. And it was summer, like, some holidays in Germany, they end at the beginning or middle of September. So it must have been first week in September, something like that.
Hmm.
And at that time of the year, tomatoes are ripe. You can eat them. And there was a little special, like a, what is it? Would you call these things like a sack?
Mm.
Like a bag of
Hmm.
tomatoes, but this natural bag.
Hmm.
It was a huge bag sitting next to me. I'm on the bench, staring into nothing
Hmm.
and kind of just not knowing what's actually going on, realizing I'll never see Peter again.
Mm.
And decades later, I went to a lady who works with the golden ratio, and she was very energetically working on a very deep level. And I went to
Mm.
her through a now ex-colleague of mine, and I sit there in that room. No, I'm laying on that bench, and she was not even touching me, but holding her hands next to my ears. And she
Hmm.
said, "What's the number that's coming up?" And I said, 97. And I sort of had no clue. And she said, "Yeah, that's nearly 100% of guilt you're carrying."
Wow.
Oh God, I'm getting
Yeah.
goosebumps.
Wow. I felt that as well.
Yeah. So that was when I finally realized, oh my goodness, I carried such a heavy guilt that
Yeah.
he had to go. leave this planet
Yeah.
because of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize as a child, but looking back on it now, like in hindsight, I understand that I had a deep subconscious level of understanding without being able to name it and frame it and put
Yeah.
it into words, which is, it's a gift, but I didn't know how to handle that gift because there was so much guilt on it. It was like thick layers.
Hmm.
And now this is kind of the essence I'm working with, having this gift of seeing and sensing what the core issue is. And it's
Hmm.
never what we think it is.
It's
Because
so
I had
true.
because I had a certain kind of sadness inside of me, which I never even dared to look at. But now, when sadness comes up, I literally go through it fully.
Yeah.
Because in my understanding, everything we want to push away and cut off and just like, oh, I don't want it, is exactly what we have to look at on a very deep level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really, it's, thank you for sharing that with me. That
Thank you for
it,
asking.
the first thing that comes to my mind is that we're not equipped to have conversations about death.
Oh, yeah.
Like for me, it's really that simple. I think back to some of the deaths that have happened around me,
Mm.
and I've been more calm and more collected and more understanding than people around me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is an understanding of what death actually is.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And
Sounds right.
over the last 3 years, I've done quite a lot of research into, like why does society think
Mm.
the way we do about death?
Yeah.
And I
Our
feel,
society, because I have a different experience made in
well,
Bali.
yeah, absolutely. And I feel like there's cultural aspects of that,
Yeah.
there's institutional aspects of that, there's um the very real legitimacy of money and legacy in that
Mm.
conversation. There's
Mm.
we'll not go down that path.
Oh,
Um, and there's so many stories and none of them are actually true.
yeah.
And I feel like we know it on a soul level that what we're
Yeah.
actually told about death is not true. And I feel like that is the pain that we feel, not that actual grief of that person passing.
Yeah. That's,
Like,
oh,
you know,
yeah, that's, yeah. Sorry, you go
no,
ahead.
I was just going to say, like for you to lose a fellow child, you would have probably felt that that was almost against nature,
Mm.
the very nature of reality, that a child could die,
Yeah.
and had you probably grown up in medieval times or, under more indigenous cultures, that probably would have been quite normal,
Yeah.
you know? So I
Absolutely.
do think that there is the sense of it not being natural that causes more harm to our psyche and how we can find peace around it because there's that wrongness. It's, instantly there is this is wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know how to compute with this. And then who's created the wrongness?
Yeah.
It must be me,
Yeah. Wow, that's quite an insight. Yeah.
you
Lovely.
know?
Yeah. Very good thinking. So when we have this wrongness about death, and it took me quite some time to understand it on a different level. And then I made this experience in Bali where I was able to attend a cremation after 10 years because families are not that rich to have cremations very often.
Hmm.
And it's a completely different story to what we have when there's a funeral.
Hmm.
And that was so happy and chatty and colorful and all the rest of it.
Mm.
And that's really so weird because after Bali, a few years later, my dad died. And I did not wear black, even though I know that in our cultural setting, black is what you have to wear at the funeral. And I thought, no, I'm not gonna go in black. And I will hold a speech, even though he's
Hmm.
my dad or was my dad. And people looked at me as if I came from some other universe. And I understand that because they are so settled into that particular frame.
Hmm.
And I tend to not keep those frames if they don't feel right inside.
Mm.
But I was like that even as a child, always looking behind the scenes, always digging deeper, which made me quite a target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always asking questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Gemma, when it comes down to, let's say, the end, mm, and because of the wrongness in our settings, what would you consider a good life in the end, like a meaningful one?
Well, this is so sort of profound from talking about death as a human being.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, have you got a rating on the video, by the way? Because obviously I not obviously, but I wanted to mention
Mm.
suicide, but I don't know whether that because that's
No,
such a
I'm
are we
sorry.
allowed to are we allowed to talk about it? I don't know. It might have to need to have a rating. I can skim round it. Let's skim round it. Let's not go into the depths because then you won't be able to put it without a rating. So death has been quite a big part of my existence, even when I was a child. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
And I have always been quite close to the other side. The veil has always been quite thin. And I feel like it's given me a deeper understanding about how to actually live life.
Mhm.
And
Interesting.
I feel like there's the how can I put it in a way that the smaller moments, the things that you would normally flit away,
Hmm.
like having a bird come and visit you
Mm.
when you're having your morning coffee, or listening to a kid giggling with their mummy. Like for me, being privy to those kind of moments, not just in your own life, but like, being aware of
Mhm.
what is actually going on around you and slowing down to really like sip. I just always get this image of like a little hummingbird, enjoying life, taking sips and little memories and moments and things. That
Mhm.
for me is living.
Mm.
And I know that's so out there in regards to an answer, but for me, it's like those memories and those moments are like stars in the sky.
Mhm.
And I feel like life, when you get to the end of life, or when you think that, you're lying in your bed after 70 years, 80 years, you'd think, I achieved this thing, I climbed this mountain and, all this kind of stuff. But in the end, I feel like what you remember is the little stars.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so with you. Thanks for sharing. Wow, so profound. Because you and me are very similar in that. Even if it's stressy in that sense, stress as such doesn't really exist in my world. there are times when lots of things need to be looked at and processed.
Mm,
Because, in my opinion, stress is when I'm busy with something else that I'm doing. So I'm doing something, but inwardly I'm busy with something completely different. Then
mm,
I get into a stressy mode
hmm.
because I'm not there. I'm not fully present. And I think that full presence is the life itself. So
Yeah.
I'm so with you, and I do the same thing. I take my moments. I really taste the tea. And even if it's the same tea, it could taste different because it was like 22 seconds longer
Yeah,
brewing.
yeah. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm talking about. The
Yeah.
how life and how every single moment can be so different from even the last time you did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's such a good way of saying it. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to I think I did a video about it actually, and I got lots of messages about it. I for nearly 2 years straight, I did the same walk
Mm.
like pretty much every single day, sometimes twice a day.
Wow.
And it was like sometimes I would walk it so slowly, like I would meander down this walk.
Mhm.
And the different, like every single time I did the walk, it would be different.
Mhm.
You know, every person that passed me by, the smile when I think about their life and who they were and the interaction that we had, and then sometimes I would actually talk to people. The path would change, the trees would fall, the different animals, the seasons change. Like every single walk was completely different.
Yeah.
And the joy that I got from doing that walk and being so invested in that whole experience. And I was just like, when you are worried, and as you said, like stressed, you lose that presence.
Absolutely.
And then it's almost I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've both been through quite some, seriously traumatic times in our lives.
Mhm.
And the difference in my memory is massive.
Mhm.
Like whole parts of my life just like completely evaporate, disappeared, like it's the
Yeah.
complete unknown.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you were lying in your bed at the end of your life, your body, your brain, your soul wouldn't even let you allow you to think about those things.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
they're just disappeared into disappeared into the ether, like.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe we hang on to the stress in in a way that extends it.
Mm.
It's almost like we're fueling the stress more because we're worrying about the worrying.
And we're avoiding the real core thing.
Yeah, but I think I don't, it's not, I mean, you could say that you're like losing yourself, aren't you, when you're not present?
Kind
But
of, yeah.
I feel like when you are in nature or when you are in a more natural setting, or if you're around people that feel secure, it's like your nervous system, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm
It
seeing lots
regulates.
of pictures, but not actually getting much articulation from it. Like your nervous system relaxes almost like so that you're not vibrating through your existence. It's like you're calm and you're present and your vision is still and you can slow and you can see and you can feel and taste and
Yeah.
you can almost like ritualize your life.
Yeah. Wonderful.
How
Yeah.
you were saying about drinking the tea and like having a beautiful conversation and you're very aware about what's being spoken and the energy between you and how things are making you feel. And like when we were talking then, like the full body chills, bringing up the memories. And like
Yeah,
when you're stressed, you can't get there. You can't feel those things. It doesn't, you're not having the same experience at all.
absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. It's so, so valuable,
Mm,
so profound. And I'm completely with you that when we worry about whatever worries, like you said, then we're not present and life happens anyway. And
mm,
we detach from ourselves as well because we're not with ourselves in that moment. We're not present. We're not here in the here and now. And like you say, when it comes to the end of this being, because that's, it's the body is like, what is it? Where the soul lives in.
mm,
And when there's time to leave that vessel, if you like, it's not it's not the worries and the stressy situations that count. You don't go through that anymore. You go through the lovely memories, the times of laughter. Yes, there can be the pictures of whatever drama and traumatic situation for sure, because it's stored in the memory.
mm,
But and this is a disclaimer, I'm not bashing against anybody or, I don't want to belittle whatever has happened to people, but it has happened already. And I really believe that there was no other way how it could happen because it did happen exactly in that way. And this is
mm,
so painful if we look at it from our ego side,
mm.
from our understanding, from like the logo.
Yeah.
But if we look at it from our soul and heart, then whatever happened had to happen exactly that way because it did. Full
Mm,
stop. There's no debating about it, there's no discussing around it. It was what it was. What we can change is the perspective, how we look at it. And I keep saying that this is one of my, not the sentence, but this is one of my living behaviors and understanding that I always have the opportunity to look at things from a different point of view.
mm,
And it would be the same as if you stood in a gallery, any kind of exhibition, especially with statues. If you look like at a monument or a statue, so any kind of sculpture, and you look at it from the front, you see that front. Take two steps left, you see something different for sure.
mm. Yeah.
And this is how I like looking onto life and onto whatever is happening. There's always a different point of view. So I have the choice to look at it on a different level, different point of view, different understanding. And when you're aware of yourself, when you know yourself better, or hopefully well, and how you function, then that level of emotional load changes with the different point of view. That's my experience, and that's how I like working with people, to not cling onto that particular load of emotional stress,
Mm.
how
Do you
you
mean,
stored it.
yeah, absolutely. Do you mean like, I mean, if we use the terminology of like reframing, that's the
Yeah,
buzzword at the moment, isn't it?
yeah,
Like reframing your reality.
yeah.
Um, I think there's sort of like a nuance to that in regards to, especially when it comes to things like abuse and, the really, the heavier aspects of things. Because when we talk about trauma, people can get trauma from really innocent situations where there isn't abuse. That trauma can happen in everyday life. It happens without no fault to anybody.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like when we talk about abuse, there's very much like this person's at fault, this person's a victim, and there's this instant judgment of the scenario and who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And being through abusive situations, both in my childhood and in my adulthood, something that I have found that's really interesting in regards to the reframing and the perspective stuff, which you've just so amazingly put, is you can see something from a different perspective and you can find compassion and understanding for that moment. And you can also still have your reality.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is not spoken about enough in spaces of coaching, that two realities, three realities, four realities, five
Yeah.
realities, they can all sit
Yeah.
in that same moment,
Hmm.
especially with family, that you find it often, and I don't know whether you found this in um with the people that you support, but in family dynamics, and people will say, say for example, oh, my sister didn't get the
Mm.
same treatment as me, she
Oh,
was the golden child and I was the
yeah.
one that was left out. And you very much cling to that kind of narration so that you can keep holding on to that hurt and that pain and the suffering. And
Yep.
it's like, because that person physically can't get into that other person's body and see what they were having to endure and deal with,
Yep.
they physically can't move through that different, how you were saying about literally taking a couple of steps round the statue,
Hmm.
like it's the same situation. There's multiple perspectives in that.
Yep.
And I think that um what I have found in my family dynamic, and I do see it in other people, is that person was, say, celebrated, and that person had it loads easier than me, or that person didn't have to, you know, go through the same traumas as me,
Yeah.
but the trauma is still the same. It just
Yeah.
manifests differently.
Yep.
And I think when you start understanding that about, like, I see myself, I'm aware of myself, and I'm aware of you, I'm aware of, someone that I might work with. When we look at each other, it's like we're all dealing with the same energy,
Yeah.
realistically. The story, the map that's bringing us up through society is really all the same kind of information that we're having to navigate. We're
Yeah.
just navigating it all in our
Did-
different
Yep.
expressions.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think what you said about, like, becoming aware of yourself, that for me is your greatest tool to be able to move through any kind of situation.
Yeah. 100%.
And I feel like the you seeing the ceremony in Bali, it's just come into my mind again. It's
Mm.
like you're being shown a different perspective so that you can see clearly.
Mm.
And then obviously your dad passing afterwards, that obviously that perspective is now imprinted on your soul, on your mind, so that you have a little bit more space to deal with your dad passing.
Yep.
Literally seeing things not only from a different perspective, but from a completely different culture.
Yep. Absolutely.
Do you feel like it changed the way that you dealt with your father's passing? Because have you ever thought about, if you hadn't have seen that, how you would have responded?
I haven't thought about that. Thanks for asking. Quite interesting. But what I realized was when my dad passed away, that I would not want to have the exact same funeral setting as in like the bigger family settings and friends and stuff.
Mm,
because I never felt aligned with that kind of funeral setting, which does not mean that I'm not judging it in that way. It was just not how I wanted my dad's funeral, and I wouldn't
mm,
want mine like that.
mhm,
And I always found it so depressing and hyper heavy. I mean, losing somebody you love is depressing on a human understanding level.
mm,
But seeing and experiencing life in Bali, that cremation, which is like, it's like a 3 days party. It's amazing. It just took the whole thing into a completely different setting, and it felt so much more aligned with how I see life.
mm,
And I thought, well, isn't that a gorgeous way to celebrate not the loss and be hyper sad and everything, but celebrate that human being is kind of reconnecting with the universal version,
mhm,
and they celebrate that particular being was there for that time, and they celebrate all they were able to experience with that person.
mm,
Whereas in our Western culture, it is all about the loss and all about the pain and all about the emptiness. And there it's
mm,
about the complete opposite. And that makes far more sense to me.
mhm. Yeah, it does me as well.
Yeah.
I actually would I say I when my mum passed away, I felt so lonely in my ability to be okay with my mum's passing. It
Yeah.
was really bizarre that people around me were obviously really upset, really, processing grief,
Yeah.
and I just didn't have any of those kinds of feelings. If anything, I felt relief that she wasn't in pain. I could think about it from that point of view.
Yeah.
I was like, thank God she's not in pain.
Yeah.
Thank God that she's not in a my mum actually had aneurysms.
Oh.
So by the time that she would have come out of hospital and out of IU and all that kind of stuff, she wouldn't be mum.
Yeah.
So I
I know.
was very much like, thank God that
Yeah.
she's at peace. The
Yeah.
thought of her not being able to bake or play her organ was, I couldn't have bared that for her. And I know that she would have been, a half-life kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and it was just so lonely to almost be in celebration that she didn't have,
Yeah.
she didn't continue to live a life that she didn't want to live. And
Yeah.
I just found myself in solitude after she passed away because I was just like, I can't relate to anyone about it. And yeah, what you were saying about the celebration, that's how I kind of thought. And it's probably more strange that I have a better relationship with my mum now than I did when she was
Mm.
actually alive.
Mm. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a meaningful perspective, in my opinion, because I had to experience it the other way with my dad. He had a really bad accident when I was 8,
Mm,
and he was still there bodily, but mentally not quite. And he was suffering from blackouts. And with the years, it became worse. And he kind of realized, this is it. I can't work. I can't do anything. I'm just sort of kind of, I can't find the English word for it. So, like melting away.
wow.